and I guess we should pick up where we left off because more has happened over the weekend.
Yeah, sure. When we left off on Friday, we were talking about Amanda Seales. We kind of ran out of time talking about that. So we
Hmm.
we spoke about Shannon Sharp's lack of interview skills.
Right.
We spoke about the Amanda Seales autism self-diagnosis.
Right.
But what we didn't really speak about was um, she
The second half.
Yeah, she spoke a bit about, or quite a lot about, how she feels she's been alienated. She spoke about, her, I don't even know what to call it, her conflict, I guess, with Issa Rae and her publicist. It seems like the
Right.
problem is really with her publicist, not necessarily Issa Rae, but it kind of spilled over into her relationship
Their
with
situation.
Issa. So we didn't get to talk about any of those things or the fact that she um, has since the infamous party that people have spoken about over the years. There's also just been um, recent dealings, which honestly I don't really feel like they got into a whole lot, but because one of the most recent, just to like kind of give some context here, one of the most recent things that she's complained about, like kind of being blackballed or whatever it is, or just something not panning out, is I believe the day this Club Shay episode came out, she was supposed to interview the CEO of Essence for her podcast, and the person canceled like 4 hours before the interview was supposed to happen.
Ah, okay. Yeah, they definitely didn't mention that at all.
Well, that because the interview had already happened, but the Club
Oh,
Shay
okay.
Shay interview had already happened. But I think this was notable because she also said that she was going to talk a little bit more about it on her Patreon. I feel like she's not one of the people who the blogs are really, and this may even be a testament to that, but she's not really one of the people who the blogs will come out and say, oh, they said this on their Patreon or whatever. So I don't know if
Right.
we'll ever really find out. You probably have to do some digging or go to her Patreon to figure out exactly what she said about it. But that was one of the latest things. She also notes that she wasn't invited to the NAACP Awards. There was something
BT
else, the
Awards.
BET Awards. There was something else that she wasn't invited to, and that's what made her start to say that I don't understand why I'm being excluded from all these spaces when I'm clearly not only a thought leader, but I'm talent that has supported all of these spaces in the past.
Right.
As we said last week, she hosted the BET Awards back in 2020. So, that's kind of a point of contention for her. So some of that does come up in one way or another in the interview, but just some backstory as far as when she says that she's not being invited to Black spaces. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah, you're right. She basically is saying that, I'm good enough to host these things,
Mhm.
but you guys won't invite me to be a part of the event otherwise. And saying things that, like, she's been nominated for certain things,
Mhm.
but she still is not being invited to these places. So she feels like she's being outed. Um, yeah, she definitely did say that. Uh, I don't I don't really know. I guess the question is, did these things start happening after the infamous party, or were they
Yeah,
already happening?
because the
That part
party,
is. Oh, go ahead.
I believe the party happened in 2018,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. Insecure was still in production, and it was probably
Mhm.
the earlier days of Insecure, or maybe the halfway point or something like that. But Insecure went out of production either the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. Insecure's been off for a while. I think it was 2022. But Yeah, so it was in the midst of her being on the cast of Insecure. So somewhere
Right.
within that 5-year time frame. If Insecure ended 22, 23, then 2018, 2019 is probably accurate, right? I don't have the details in front of me, but I might be fudging those years a little bit, but they can't be that
Yeah, but
far
it's around
off.
that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Oh, good.
I was gonna say, so she was on the cast of Insecure at the time. Because she notes going in, she was trying to enter the party with Kendrick Sampson, who was also on the cast of Insecure. Um, and yeah, so it was. She said it was a collective of Black people who put it together, and you know,
Right.
Black people in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I guess that was the only question mark for me as far as these invitations go. We could get back to the party itself, but since we kind of started with the inviting versus hosting thing, that was my only question. I never watched Insecure. I didn't follow it, so I didn't really know the timeline.
Hmm.
Um, but if it was before that party, I would question why. If it's after that party, then I don't think we need to question why. I think it's pretty
Right.
clear if it happened after that party, why. Whether it's justified or not, I'm just saying the reasoning. If it was after the quote unquote infamous party, then I can see why, because clearly some things that stem from that party and the rumors that started after would be the clear reason why.
Right.
And I think what was that?
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you said something. And I think also maybe even if it's not the rumors, but just some of the eyewitness accounts of what happened at that
Hmm.
party, because it don't have to be a rumor. If I saw with my own eyes X, Y, and Z,
Right.
when it comes time to be part of this other thing,
Yeah.
it's very easy to say, hey, I don't know about those rumors, but here's what I witnessed that made me think maybe she's not a good fit for this event that's coming up. So I could see that as well.
I think what's unfortunate about it is that, first of all, I don't work in Hollywood. I don't know a lot about Publicists. I found it really odd that the Publicist was able to call the shots in this way. I just
Right.
didn't understand that, and I don't know how that works. I know that as far as messaging goes, Publicist is very, very involved, but this seemed personal, and I didn't understand. Like, I don't think that I don't think that your publicist should be the reason one of your cast members doesn't get into a party.
Yeah,
That
but
didn't
wasn't
make sense to me.
I agree? But was didn't she say that the publicist was one of the people who put the party together? She said it was a collective, but
If she said it was a
wasn't the
collective,
publicist one of the
I
collective?
don't. I think she was involved. Yeah, I think she would have had to have been involved, and
Mhm.
especially if she was able to say, "Please keep this person out of the party." But again, my confusion is just I don't understand, and I don't understand Hollywood on a first person level, so I don't know how this works, and I've never heard anyone describe anything like this, but I just don't understand how her publicist is able to decide. Like, okay, I do understand on a level of if we are talking about image, if we are talking about like protecting the brand or something like that, I can understand her publicist getting involved with things like that. But this to me sounds more like I don't like this person who's on your cast. And so I'm going to keep them out of a party because I have the wherewithal to do so. But doesn't really make sense. Like, I think that I love Issa Rae. I think that goes without saying. I've always been very vocal about how supportive I am of what she's doing. But I'm just a little bit confused. I know we'll probably never get her perspective on it, but I'm just a little bit confused as to why Amanda Seals made a good point. If we are both your employee, how do you stay out of it?
Right.
Even if what you say is y'all are adults and y'all need to deal with this. But I don't think that it should ever affect the business, but it's also
Right.
Hollywood, and I don't, again, don't really. I think we've seen with other things, like even when the whole Lizzo thing came up about how Lizzo is with her employees and whatnot, I think there's a very different way of doing business in Hollywood. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's right, but I just think that there's a very different way. Even in just entertainment in general, things are a little bit different. You know, walking into somebody's like hedge fund or accounting firm or something is very different. Is a very different work environment from working for an entertainment company.
Yeah.
So I don't understand exactly how this works in terms of who gets the say in what, but I do think that if it was an issue, because there's a point where she says that Issa does jump in to say, is this going to affect work on set? But which is a good question coming from the boss, but then that needed to be managed a little bit. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do. Maybe I do know what the right thing to do is. I just feel like she did need to be involved, or she needed to have someone who was not the two of them get
Who could
involved,
mediate?
because she's the boss, right? So she could say, okay, so and so, you're in charge of HR relations. I don't know if there's a real HR or whatever, but you're in charge of this. They were working with a big media conglomerate. I can't imagine that there wasn't some sort of HR process in place. This needs to be handled. This needs to be dealt with. Someone should have been dealing with it, because for it to get to the point where someone is being shut out of a party for no good reason, because there's no good reason. And then what it did in the media, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what it did in the media was it gave the perception that Amanda Seales was like some sort of hanger on, and that she was trying to get into a party she wasn't invited to. I remember when this happened, and it was like a big story everywhere that Amanda Seales is trying to get into a party she wasn't invited to, and and they're telling her to leave and she won't leave. And when you hear the story from her perspective, it's very different from that. Or rather, it puts some of that into context.
I agree with the second one.
And, well, because she was invited to the party. According to
Yes.
her, she was invited to the party. So it's
Yeah, she gave
incorrect.
names.
So so the reason I say that it's not how it happened is because it's incorrect to say, if what she's saying is true, it's incorrect to say she wasn't invited to the party. And I
Right.
remember when this happened, that was what people were saying. She
Right. But
was
she did
invited.
refuse to leave several
She did
times.
refuse to leave. Yes, that's true. But when you put it into context, I might have handled it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
If you tell me to leave, say no more. Because why am I sticking around? This is uh it's a humiliating experience as it is. So I'm not going to stick around to continue to be humiliated by nonsense and by someone who thinks they have the power in the situation. Because Amanda Stills did not lose her job. She did
Right.
not. I mean, whether they liked her or not, they kept her on till the very end of the
Yep.
show. So I don't know, that party thing, but I do think that party thing is a little weird, but I do think that it did create some sort of snowball effect. And after that, there's a lot of things that happen. Now, I'm not saying that one is a result of the other, but I do think that maybe there was a lot of chatter after that. I think that maybe, she starts then publicly speaking about certain things, and that may have been an issue. And hey, Issa Rae is an extremely powerful woman in Hollywood. Issa Rae is an extremely successful woman in Hollywood.
Yep.
Bigger than she moves pretty quietly, I think,
Yes.
but she's a lot bigger than many.
Agreed. Yep.
Um, at some point, I think we'll see her open her own studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that's the road that she's on. That's the trajectory that she's on. And she's done a lot of that stuff already. A lot of that is already in place. So there is a world where Issa Rae has a problem with Amanda Seales, and it affects Amanda Seales' day to day in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true, but I think there's a world where that could happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going back to this party,
Yeah.
there were a couple things that were weird to me. She said she tried to leave after being denied. Janet Jackson's bodyguard, I believe it was, saw her and was like, "Nah, girl, you got to come on, we going in together." And then she was denied. And then the third time, she actually did get in because one of the other people, I don't remember his name, but one of the other people who did help put it together was able to get her in, even though, again, it was said she's not supposed to be in here. So she got in. Cool. I'd have left already. I'm just speaking about me personally. After the first, you not getting in, I'm just out. Like I'm going home.
Right.
Janet Jackson's bodyguard, cool that we're friends, but it's already been dramatic. And being that in that moment, you know what kind of shit could happen and how sensitive these Hollywood relationships are, probably best to leave. But she didn't leave. All right, cool. You got in. The other person who helped put it together got you in. Cool. You get into the party and you're immediately asked to leave. Why you didn't leave? Clearly they didn't want you in there. So you say, well, who wants me to leave? They say, all right, we're going to find out. We'll be back. And she complimented the guard. She said the security guard was a cool brother. You know, he didn't want any drama. He was just trying to do his job. He seemed to be very respectful, all these things. He came back and said, whatever the publicist's name is, Victoria, Vanessa, I can't remember, but something like that, and said, she's the one who wants you to leave. She still didn't leave. She says, well, she's going to have to tell me her motherfucking self. She's going to have to come here and tell me herself to my face. You see, this is what starts these things of you're difficult to work with and all of this stuff. Are the rumors cool? No. Same as when I said it was messed up. If this is true, what they did to Monique, it creates a similar situation. But you didn't do yourself any favors by staying once they said, hey, this person who's also an organizer of this event doesn't want you here. They've asked for you to leave. That was the time to leave. Not to say I'm going to stand on business. They need to come tell me to my face.
Yeah,
So,
all of that wasn't necessary. I think that you also lose your peace at that point. Like it's not helping you to stay there and do what exactly? Have a fight? Because that's essentially what it could have led to. So
right. So, okay, cool. At that point, people pay attention. So she starts saying after that, now it's a commotion. Now people are watching. Now 4 guards come to remove me. But you could have avoided all of that. And so that is where part of the problem comes. Because saying this person need to come tell me to my face, well, that was a difficult situation. You made the situation difficult by doing that. I agree with you as far as the publicist goes. It seems like the publicist for some reason had a long-standing problem with Amanda. Based on Amanda's story, we don't have the publicist story, but based on Amanda's story, it does seem like, hey, this person don't like me. I don't know why. And she tried to be proactive. I give her credit for that because she says before the party even happened, she went to Issa Rae and said, hey, I think there needs to be a conversation with you and the publicist because it seems like she has an issue with me. If I remember correctly, that was before the party even happened. And Issa said, nah, I'm not getting involved. And so it seems to me also that she tried to be proactive and avoid some of these things. So I think we got to give her credit for that. But
Right.
I also think I agree with you. Issa didn't handle it properly. Because if this person
Mm.
comes to you and says, hey, it looks like this person has a problem with me who's also your staff, then yeah, I agree. Maybe there wasn't an HR person. I don't know, but there needed to be some kind of mediator between the two ladies, right? Where we could say, okay, person A got a problem with person B. We got to figure this out so we could move forward. But she didn't do that. And then after the party, when it became a bigger problem, now she says, well, you and her need to speak and figure it out. We got to sort this out. But then she said she only got a call from the one person. No Issa, no mediator. I don't know how that's going to go well. Uh, and it seems like, again, based on Amanda's story, that the publicist wanted smoke because she said, hey, I have a problem with you. And Amanda says, she said, okay. She said, you don't want to know why I have a problem with you? She said, no, and hung up the phone. I could see, one, how the person who got hung up on would think that that's rude. But on the flip side, I could also see Amanda's side where there's nothing left to really talk about if you got a problem with me and I don't got a problem with you.
Yep.
Because what more is there to discuss if it's a one-sided thing? Well, I mean, at that point, it's just a you thing. But the person kept calling back and kept saying, kept trying to egg Amanda on, it seems like, based on Amanda's story. And so finally, Issa Rae did get involved, but not really at that time, because you just had Homegirl call me. That didn't really change anything. And so now it created a lot of contention, it seems.
And say whatever
So it
you want to
does.
say. Sorry. I just wanted to say whatever you want to say. Like, if, okay, this phone call happens. I
Mhm.
did it because I don't like you. Okay, what else? You don't want to know why I don't like you? No. But you didn't try to, like, you wanted it to be a back and forth. You could have just said, hey, there was that time where you ignored me and acted like you never met me before or whatever it is, and I didn't like that, and ever
Mhm.
since then I really don't like you, so this is this is what it is, and this was some get back for that or whatever. But to I understand that people like try to, I don't know, mind trick you with silence sometimes, but this was not really a this was not the moment to do that.
Right.
This was the moment to just say whatever you had to say, and then maybe we could engage in a dialogue. But to just like ping, 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 wait for what? What do you, what is it? Seems manipulative to be
Yeah.
honest. And
No,
it seems
I
like it
agree.
backfired. Um,
Or not.
Well, I think it did. I think it backfired on the person who did it because she thought that she was going to get some sort of back and forth, some sort of dialogue, and she wasn't given one. And she clearly didn't like it when she had to like almost beg to give her spiel. But you should have just gave it in the first place. But you tried to
Right.
play games with this woman, and that's why you got nothing from her. Yes, there people who would have engaged her and been like, "Well, why you don't like me?" But no, not everybody's gonna do that, and not everyone should. So I don't
Yeah, I agree with that part. When I said or not, I'm saying that because it seemed like once it became a one-on-one phone call,
know. Uh-huh.
it seems based on Amanda's story, like the agenda of the publicist was, I'm gonna go back to Issa and say things didn't go well.
Right,
Because based on Amanda's story, this person didn't call to resolve a problem. They
right,
called to egg somebody on and
right,
report back and say, man, I tried to talk to Dash, but it didn't work. Dash was just difficult. Sorry, Issa. So they
right.
still were able to go back and do that. That's why I said or not. But yeah, you are right that they didn't get to have an argument or whatever like they wanted to. Um, but really, I think this is sad because this is some real like catty nonsense, for lack of a better term. Like,
Feels
you
very
don't like
like
somebody, so
playground.
what? Like, what was that?
I said it feels very playground.
Yeah, like this was so immature and weird based on Amanda's story. I mean, again, we don't have anybody else's account. We can only go off of her story and what she said, but it just seemed like some real immature, silly nonsense. And
Yeah,
it's sad
it
that
shouldn't
that
affect
had
the
to
work.
affect right and whatever else happened after because Issa based on Amanda's story, I got to keep saying it because I don't want it to seem like I have a problem with Issa. But based on Amanda's story, Issa did a lot of things really weird. Like even when earlier they went to lunch or whenever it was that they went to lunch or dinner or whatever, and she's telling her, "I guess I started looking at you like your character."
Yeah, that
But
was weird.
that's mad weird.
Which
Like that's super weird.
I also wondered. We'll never know, right? And I'm
Did
not
she
trying to
write?
call.
Did she purposely write that way?
No, I also wondered, and I'm not calling Amanda a liar by any means. That's why I say I guess we'll never know. But Issa has always said that people look at her as if she is her character, mainly because their first names
Ah,
are the same.
okay,
On Insecure, Issa's character is Issa Rae plays Issa D.
okay. I didn't know
Um,
that.
and it's been a running joke and just a running, conversation that the fans forget that Issa Rae is not Issa D, and she plays a character, and she has said, I think she's even said, like, one of her biggest mistakes was making her character the same name as she has in real life. Now, the reason I bring that up is because when I saw this, when I saw Amanda Seales say this, I did think to myself, was that a joke? Was that meant to be a joke when Issa said it? I'm not trying to defend her, and I'm not trying to say that Amanda is wrong or she's lying or whatever, but I wondered, because of the backstory, I wondered, could that have been a joke? And
Got it.
maybe it was a bad joke, but I just wondered if it was. So, like I said, we'll
Okay,
never really know. We weren't
right.
there, you know. Um, but yeah, I do think it's a weird thing to say. And even if it was a joke, it probably wasn't the right time to make the joke.
Right.
Um, because there's also that. So I don't know. I'm kind of glad that Insecure is over. Mainly because I feel like Amanda Seales needed to get out of that situation. And you see, like, the
Clearly.
cast members hang out and whatever. They see each other, maybe not often these days, but they meet up, and they seem to all be cool with each other except for her. She's never around when the group is together.
Well, yeah, and she said that. She said after a while, she just wasn't talking to anyone on set.
Right. Right. So it kind of, I think she said the only person who she's kept in touch with or still talks to is her, the guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy who played her husband on the show.
Okay.
I think they're very close.